My life did not end at my husband's funeral. It began there. The chapel was a sea of somber black, a monochrome portrait of grief. I stood at the entrance, wrapped in the charcoal gray wool coat Robert always loved, greeting guests with a numb, practiced smile. The wind whipped, turning my fingers to ice, but I held my post. For 40 years, I had been the architect of our respectable facade. I would not let it crumble now, even for his final bow. Then, our son Daniel took the podium. He is 33, a back-end engineer, a man who deals in cold, hard logic. His eulogy was steady, a tribute to the father he idolized. But then his voice faltered, his eyes growing glassy. "There's someone I need to give a special thank you to," he said, and the room stilled. My heart clenched. I clutched my handbag, my knuckles bleaching white. After 40 years of companionship, of silent sacrifices and steadfast loyalty, I believed, I knew, he was about to say, "My mother." The words that came instead were a dull blade, gutting me slowly, meticulously. "Miss Linda Mallister." A soft, confused murmur rippled through the crowd. And from the front row, she rose. Linda. Dressed in a deep emerald sheath, makeup impeccable, delicate, practiced, tears glistening in her eyes. She gave a modest, sorrowful nod and sat back down. The recipient of my son's gratitude. Sound detonated in my ears, a silence so profound it was deafening. Linda Mallister. Robert's administrative assistant, later his consulting partner. The woman he'd always dismissed when my intuition prickled. "She's just competent, Margaret, don't be paranoid." I saw it then. This funeral wasn't for Robert. It was the unveiling of a hidden world where I was the stranger, the discarded spectator. The final, brutal blow came in the lawyer's office the next day. The air smelled of dust and old paper. Sunlight cut through the blinds, laying bare the truth in sharp, unforgiving stripes. "Pursuant to the will," the lawyer intoned, his voice a slow, heavy bell, "the majority of Mr. Smith's assets, the primary residence, the Nantucket property, his personal accounts, shall pass to Miss Linda Mallister." I was not just stunned. I was erased. Pushed from the main stage of my own life into the wings, a ghost in my own story. I turned to Daniel. He sat rigid, his expression unchanging. "He knew, you knew," I whispered, the words scraping my throat raw. "Dad had his reasons," he said, his tone nearly serene. Linda understood him. You didn't." In that moment, I didn't just lose a husband. I lost my son. He wasn't defending his father's memory, he was redrawing the family tree and cutting me out of the picture. At home, I descended into the quiet evidence of my own blindness. In the basement, a cardboard box of forgotten memories yielded a photograph, Robert, Linda, and a teenage Daniel, all smiling, a caption, once scratched out but now revealed under my eraser, read, "Our little family will be official one day." Something broke in my chest. Not my heart, not glass, but something deeper, trust. And I knew it would never be whole again. But that night, I lit a single candle. I put on a slow, unhurried jazz record, my choice, not his. For 40 years, I had lived to his rhythm. No more. The music, the beat, the steps were mine to choose now. The war began not with a shout, but with a click of a mouse. Linda's Facebook profile was a gallery of my humiliation. There was Robert in her kitchen, holding a lemon pie she'd baked. There he was in her garden, and there was Daniel, years ago, with her arm around his shoulder. She hadn't just stolen my husband, she had been patiently, methodically, annexing my family. I called Ruth, my old colleague from the firm. "Ruth," I said, my voice steady for the first time in months. "I believe Robert used company funds to buy that woman her life. I need you to help me find the proof." "You're not just fixing a marriage, Maggie," she replied. "You're looking to expose fraud." "I'm looking for the truth," I said. "I've spent too long in the dark." The evidence arrived in a damning email. Annotated PDFs showed 3 transfers, totaling over $350,000, funneled through a shell company to Linda. The payments were timed perfectly to avoid audit cycles. Ruth's note was simple: fraudulent gift, lack of justification. There it was. The knot of resolve in my chest tightened. My lawyer, Michelle Robinson, was a woman in her 50s with a no-nonsense gaze and a sharp haircut. She took the folder of evidence, photos, financial records, the whole sordid story. "We will do our best," she promised. The legal battle was a whirlwind. Linda and her lawyer fought back with fake invoices and claims of consulting services. But we had the truth. I took the stand, and for the first time, I gave voice to my 40 years of silent sacrifices. I spoke not as a victim, but as a witness to my own erasure. The judge, a woman whose eyes held a deep understanding, saw through the lies. She ruled in our favor. Linda was ordered to repay everything, with interest, over $1 million. The properties were sold, the golden life Robert built for her with stolen bricks crumbled to dust. As for Daniel, he didn't speak to me for years. He said I was destroying his father's memory. "Your memory is a fairy tale," I told him. "The truth is, your father was a con man." The reconciliation was slow, born of his own maturity and the slow dawning realization of the illusion he'd defended. He finally called. He finally apologized. Years later, at a family gathering, he hugged me. "Mom," he asked, a genuine smile on his face, "when did you get so good at giving speeches?" I smiled back. "I always was, Daniel. You just weren't listening." That night, after everyone had left, I stood on my porch, listening to the wind chime sing its gentle song. The sunset blazed behind the old maple tree, as if asking, "Who are you now?" I walked barefoot into the house, hung up my dress, and went to bed. I knew exactly who I was. I was Maggie Smith. A survivor. A fighter.